Welcome to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team, and I'm Yetta Dekker.
And I'm Ken Dekker.
And together we form...
Half the Dekker Team.
No, we don't. We form a small part of the Dekker Team.
Okay.
Because we have an amazing support team.
You're making me feel less and less important.
Well, if the shoe fits...
Yeah, I guess I'm Cinderella.
Okay. Anyway, welcome to the show. And today we're going to answer some questions that people have asked us and continue to ask us, whether they email them in or ask us in person. We've got them written down here, and we're going to answer them and see if you can learn a thing or two or maybe get some insight that you didn't have before.
For sure.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
Okay, so Ken, I had a bank appraisal, and now I've been laid off. Can I still get a mortgage?
Ew.
That's a tough question to start with, isn't it?
That's a tough question.
Nobody's going to like you after you answer this one.
Thanks for that one. The definitive answer is maybe.
Right.
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully this happened prior to you fulfilling your conditions on an offer, because during the conditional period you could back out of a contract to buy a house. If it happened between the time that you firmed up on the conditions and the closing date, you may still get your mortgage.
Or you may not.
Or you may not. It depends on whether the bank used your income in the calculations or just your spouse's. Or another depending factor is sometimes they don't recheck to make sure that you're employed or to check.
Generally they do.
I'm just saying sometimes.
Generally
they do. Okay, you're getting really upset with this because your heart goes out to this person.
I do.
And we recently had one that did this actually, and we were still able to get them a mortgage through a mortgage broker. It was really tight, but they qualified for a program that was called undisclosed income or no proof of income, but they had to have more down payment. And fortunately, this person had a lot of down payment. So the bank was okay with loaning, or the lending institution was okay with lending them the money without any proof or verification of income.
Yeah. And even those programs, it is a tough one. And those programs are getting less and less, and all the financial programs are getting tighter and tighter. So, yeah, it's a tough situation to find yourself in.
If your job's not secure, not the greatest time to go out and buy a house.
Right. And if you think it is and it's not, then we'll
go get another job real quick.
Well, for sure, in the same field. Because if it's in the same field, then you're still in good shape.
Yeah.
And for it depends. It doesn't even have to be the same amount of income. It could be any job in the same field as long as that amount of income still allows you to qualify.
Right.
So.
Right. That was a tough question.
I know. I don't know why we started with that.
Because you've read it. Okay.
Right again.
Let's move on. Onward and upward.
Okay. So I interviewed 2 agents for the job of helping me to buy a home. One was very informative about agency law, had me sign disclosure paperwork, and wanted me to work under an exclusive buyer representation.
Okay.
Okay. The other agent that I met with was more animated, informal, and presented nothing in writing.
Okay.
Why the difference?
Well, I guess part of it is personality. Different strokes for different folks. Different people have different levels of animation or excitement, and other ones are more particular about detail and procedure.
Now hold on a minute. You could get somebody that was really animated that still liked procedure.
Yeah, you could.
Because I got one of those that lives with us on the team.
Question.
Okay. You're just making them sound like 2 different people.
Well, okay. You could get someone that's fun and lighthearted, but still a detailed person.
Right.
Now, as far as our governing body goes, the Real Estate Council of Ontario, their requirement is that we disclose agency early and often. So there's 3 times that we can actually disclose agency. One is
Can I get you to stop for a minute?
Sure.
Because disclosing agency sounds, if I'm not in the real estate market, or maybe if nobody's ever done that for me, what on earth is disclosing agency?
Okay.
Let's maybe start there.
Yeah. So agency is it's not that big a word, but it's a word that means basically your agent. Who's representing you? An agent generally represents you under an agency agreement. Okay? So, for instance, if you have a lawyer and you hire that lawyer is representing you. So they could be we would call them an advocate, but it also could be similar with a real estate agent. If you hire that real estate agent, they would become your agent, or the agency would be the brokerage that's representing you.
That's a different question that we're going to get to that's going to create some more confusion.
We'll hit that.
Or we'll get rid of the confusion.
So here's the crutch of the matter. RICO says you need to disclose that thing about agency so the public understands whether you're working for them or not. So they understand what they might say that could be used against them if you're not working for them, or that would be kept in confidence if you are working for them. So RICO would like us as agents to disclose about agency early. And early in their mind means almost at the first meeting.
Well, even at the first phone conversation, they would love it.
Yeah, they would love it.
Certainly by the first meeting. And RICO, because that's just an acronym, it's the Real Estate Council of Ontario.
Yeah.
So they're our governing body. We have different governing bodies. However, that's the one for Ontario, the Real Estate Council of Ontario. And they lay out how we are to conduct our business on a lot of levels.
Yeah, and they administer the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act, which is REBA 2008, I think it is. And
there's a code of ethics that goes along with that.
Yes, that they also enforce.
Right. And so RICO becomes who decides how we're to do things as realtors, right? And so part of that is to tell people how they are being represented,
right?
Which is really what agency is.
So the person that presented that little pamphlet and asked you to sign it as a disclosure that they'd given it to you, that's perfect. That's ideal. That's great.
Right. And it could have been a pamphlet, or it could have been a one-page document, because we do have different formats that agency disclosure. It's the same words, it's the same documentation, it just has a different format of presentation.
Right, and the beauty with that document is it's not a contract.
Right.
It does not lock you into anything with that agent. It's just a disclosure form, and by signing you've said, yes, he's actually disclosed this, or he or she has actually disclosed this information to me, and that's it. So that's an important piece.
Right, and it indicates, there is a spot on there to initial as to how you would like that person to represent you if you're going to enter into a formal agreement, which is the next set of paperwork that this person had them sign.
Yeah, so now they're asking, that realtor, the first realtor was asking you to sign an exclusive buyer representation agreement, which basically says, hey, I'm going to look after you, I'm going to represent your interests, I'm going to find the best house I can for you, I'm going to negotiate the best terms in the contract for you, and I'm going to hold everything you tell me confidential.
And the other big piece I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what questions to ask that you didn't know to ask. And I'm going to coach you on what you need to know that you didn't know you needed to know. And I'm going to do a market evaluation to make sure you're paying the right price on the property, whether you ask me or not. And I'm going to direct you to other professionals that will help you even if you didn't ask me to.
Yeah, because it's really signing an agreement that says everything you as a real estate agent know needs to protect me, whether I ask for it or not, because I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what to ask.
I may not know everything though.
Right.
And if I see an issue in the house, I have an obligation to disclose that to you because I'm protecting your interests, even if you didn't ask me to take care of those things. If I know that there potentially could be a challenge in resale because of a particular thing around the location or the house itself, I have to disclose that to you, whether you are seeking the information or not. Now, it's then your choice as to what to do with the information. I don't get to make any decisions, and I get to give you a lot of really great information, or I'm obligated to give you all the information I possibly can so you can make a great decision, which can only be done if you have information.
Right. So back to the first agent compared to the second agent. Yeah. So they're doing their job, and they're doing it well.
The first agent.
The first agent. Many agents take kind of a lackadaisical approach to disclosure and to the contract, and some of them may ask you to sign one at the time of offer, And to me, really, that's the wrong time, because you may have disclosed way too much information. You may decide you don't want that. Now any information that you've given them can and will be used against you in the negotiations, because they might be representing the seller now.
Right.
Because you choose not to have them represent you.
Right. So there is a second set of form, a different form that you could sign that says you're going to be a customer rather than a client.
Yeah.
And so in that case, if you sign the customer form, that realtor that you've spent time with, that you've told them your life history and what's important to you about a house and what matters to you and what you're willing to pay maybe, all of that, that is no longer confidential information. And that's okay, provided you knew that up front.
So I would say with the person that's a little less formal, be careful. They might be a great realtor.
Yeah.
They might be a great realtor. And they just might feel uncomfortable explaining those things. But really, you want a real estate agent that's knowledgeable, informative, and truthful.
And fun. You can get one that's fun too.
Yeah, you
I
can get
promise.
the fun part. That's, yes. But it's important to be protected. And so, you know, if it was me, I'm more of a detailed person. I'm probably going to select the first realtor, not the one that was just animated and, you know, because I don't necessarily get as good a sense of, can they protect me? Are they knowledgeable?
Right. And something we've done with our specific agreements when we do help a buyer, because we believe all of our team members know that we need to have that documentation in place, because it just alleviates questions, concerns, frustrations about not understanding. Because if you sign something, you're likely to take the time to understand what you're really signing. So therefore, that's the biggest reason actually I encourage somebody to sign it, is because if you sign it, you're going to understand it.
Yep.
You're more likely to take that opportunity
and always
to really
ask for a copy of what you sign as well.
Correct. We email them automatically, because we tend to have one copy of everything, and then it gets emailed so that people don't have to sign 2 or 3 at the time we're sitting down. However, what we've done is we build into our buyer representation agreement really an easy exit guarantee, and also an opportunity if you end up with a home that's for sale privately where they will not cooperate, which is very, very rare. So, I mean, as long as you've allowed us to make the introduction, this is not something that we run into very often, almost never. However, there is a Schedule A that we add that allows the buyer to still remain in control. And that makes all the difference as well, right?
Okay.
So, perfect. Okay, I worry a lot, and I have sold my house, and I want to buy another one. If my existing house does not close, what are my problems or my options? Do houses sometimes close late? So it's sort of a two-part question.
Two-part question. Okay. So before I answer that, I'm going to let you know that we're at halfway mark.
Already?
Yeah. And so if you're just joining us, you're listening to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team, and we're discussing questions that people have written in or asked us in the past, and giving our answer from the heart, really. Yeah. So this question is, I'm a little bit of a worrywart, and I've sold my house. I want to go buy another house. What happens if I buy my other house and my first house doesn't close, or it closes late? I think this is really the question.
Yep.
Great question. So if it doesn't close, you're in trouble. A little bit of trouble.
Well, that depends.
Because you're buying another house. And that house, maybe you can close on it without yours selling. Maybe you can't. Depends on the financing, right? Let's say, for instance, you can't buy it without the funds from your first house, because all your equity's in there, your down payment's in there, it's coming to the second house. Now you got to go to the second people, explain the problem that you have, and ask for an extension. And hopefully they can give you an extension. Now, one of the problems is that maybe they've bought another house, and so it starts to create a chain of problems.
Where they can't close unless they get their money from that sale.
Right. So sometimes it can be a fairly long chain. Now, ultimately, the person that had the offer in on your house, the contract to buy it, they're now in default. And you may have to actually put your house back up for sale and resell it. Now, if you sell it for less, you can sue for damages. You can sue for their deposit. You can sue for even more damages. And when I say sue, usually it's small claims court, depending on the amount. I think small claims court goes up to like $24,000 or something. So most of the time it's held there. Sometimes they just say, I'm sorry, they forfeit the deposit, and you put it back up for sale. Now, the odd time it's delayed. And sometimes it's just the lender didn't quite get their ducks in a row. They didn't get the money to the lawyer in time, so it might be delayed a day or two. Usually what I say in those cases is I highly recommend that your closing day is midweek, not Friday. A lot of people say, well, I want to close on Friday because then I can move on the weekend. The problem is if a hiccup occurs and your closing doesn't happen on Friday, now it's not till Monday.
At the best.
Best case scenario is Monday that it could close. So now you got 3 days, furniture in a truck or it has to be unloaded into storage. You got hotel rooms and all that sort of thing. If it doesn't close and it's Wednesday and you can get it closed Thursday morning, now your stuff just sat on the truck overnight and you have one
and you
day of
hung
expense.
out at a friend's house maybe.
Yeah, or whatever. You slept in your car. I don't really, well, I do care, but I'm just saying you can make something work for an evening.
Right.
So sometimes the closings are delayed. Now, for my worry person, the person likes to worry, it's very rare that a property doesn't close that's a firm transaction. It's probably 1 in a couple hundred. Yeah, probably 1 in a couple hundred. So a very small percentage don't close.
And yet if it's you, then it's a horrible experience.
Yes. And usually it's something like the previous question where they got laid off of their job and now the lender won't loan to them and now they're suddenly scrambling to find a different way, or appraisal didn't quite come in and they got to find some extra money and borrow some money from a family member or something. Usually there's something that can work out. Not all the time, but
most
usually.
of the time.
And your realtors usually get involved back into that issue and try to come to a
Well,
solution.
and that is actually a great point here. If something like that starts to go south, do call the realtor that's representing you. I know your lawyer's on top of it, and that's fantastic, because at that point it becomes a legal conversation more than a real estate conversation. However, the realtor sometimes can have a conversation with the other realtor that the lawyer can't really have because they already have a relationship with them. Mm-hmm. We had one recently that was delayed a few days, and although it was a little stressful for my seller, it was something where I was able to get a hold of the realtor, sort out really what the background challenge was, and it just became a couple-day delay. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, and sometimes we know a different mortgage lender, or we know someone at the bank, or you never know who we know that might help solve this problem.
Right. And so here we are. There seems to be for sale signs all over my street. Is it a good time or a bad time to sell?
Well, it's interesting because people always tell me, well, there's a lot of for sale signs on my street. Well, it's because your for sale sign caused them to think about selling. It's like a mushroom effect. You get one that comes on the street and then another. Well, if they can get, they're asking X for their house. If they can get that, then I can get Y because my house is way better. And then they decide to put their house up for sale. And suddenly you've got many houses up for sale on the street.
And that will happen frequently, where you don't see anything on a street, and then all of a sudden there's 5.
Yep.
And people go, what's wrong? Well,
what's
nothing.
wrong with the street?
What's wrong with the street? Nothing's wrong with the street. People love it here. It's just, as you see one sign, for some reason it seems to propagate more signs.
Yeah. So is it a good time to sell? Well, maybe, maybe not. That's where you need your realtor to come in, do a comparison and see what other relevant properties are for sale or sold, so you can get an idea of value, how long you've been there. Maybe there's more competition. Maybe you might have to lower your price a little bit to get it sold. Maybe not.
Right. And sometimes if there's a lot on one street and they've been sitting for a while, that's an indication that those properties aren't being received by the buyers into the marketplace at the price they're on the market at.
Right.
So, in other words, they're overpriced. And so if you're willing to recognize that they're not selling because they're not priced according to what the market will allow right now, and you price it a little bit under, you can actually allow your neighbors to sell your house. And we've certainly had that happen often. So just because there's a lot of signs on your street that does not, and they're not selling, does not mean it's a bad time for you to be on the market. It may be a fantastic time.
It might attract several people because of the volume of houses that are there. They might even just, be in a different price range, come and see that one and then say to the realtor, oh, there's another one down the street. How much is that one? And you never know how that works.
We actually just sold one because of that.
Yeah?
Right, for one of our buyers.
Okay.
Because it was slightly out of their price range, but there were 5 homes for sale in this little tiny enclave, and we didn't look at certain ones because they were beyond our comfort zone, price-wise. And yet when we were there looking at them driving up and down the street, I suggested, well, if it's only a little bit more, even if it's a lot more, what if there's a lot of flexibility because there's so much on the street in that neighborhood? And it worked out really well for my buyer. So it really does work. Okay, I live on a corner lot, and people, including agents and people selling privately, put signs on the city-owned portion of my lot. What can I do? Because they're challenging to cut around and they mess up the look of my house. And they're also, they're also difficult from an eye obstruction traffic sometimes.
Yeah. So that's a great question again. Basically, they're illegal. Yeah. Even though they're on the city property, and I think what they're talking about is kind of the ditch and sidewalk in that area where the city owns it, but you still cut the grass and maintain it. Right? So it's really part of your property. And people will put these directional signs that say their house is for sale down the street, or sometimes it's for businesses, whatever. The only sign that's really allowed to be on there is an open house sign, and it's only an open house, like an A-frame kind of sign, and they're only allowed to be on there the day of the open house.
Or the garage sale for that matter.
Garage sale or that type of thing. And then they have to be removed immediately at the end of that open house or garage sale or whatever. There's an exception in the bylaws for those. All the other signs are against the City of Ottawa bylaw if they're in the City of Ottawa. And City of Ottawa, by the way, goes way into the country. So if you're in the country and, even if you don't live on the corner lot, but you go down that street and there's 5 or 6 signs on the corner and it makes it look...
Well, it's dangerous, actually.
Makes it look junky.
Well, it's also dangerous.
Yeah. A simple way of doing it, call 311, which is the City of Ottawa's phone number. 311, you only got 3 numbers. That's 3 numbers.
It is.
Well, it's really 2 numbers. It's 3 and 1, but the 2 ones. 311. It's like, do you know the number to 911?
Okay.
So 311, ask for bylaw, sign bylaw, and just say there's a directional sign or a sign on the corner of, name the 2 streets, and they'll send someone out to pick it up.
Yeah, and because they are not allowed.
Yeah.
And so it becomes challenging for those that honor the rules and those that don't as well. So you can help keep your neighborhood clean and get rid of some traffic issues.
Yeah.
And just, it's a good thing. And you do have to give your name when you call. And when you give your name, it does not go to the person who has infringed on the bylaw.
No.
They just ask who's calling.
And if they really want their sign back, the sign goes into a compound. And if they really want it back, they can go and they pay a fine and they get their sign back. Yeah.
Precisely. Because it is a finable offense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So if you're joining us on the Inside Track today, we've been answering questions that you, our listeners and callers and viewers, have asked us. And so we're going to keep doing that on future shows. So if you haven't had your question answered yet, you'll want to either give us your question and then let us know and we'll air it on a show, or just watch following shows and see if it does get answered because somebody else asked it. Yeah. So a few great properties to talk about today. We have one just outside Manotick, and it is, instead of owning a townhome, you can own a single family home for $300,000.
Yeah.
High
And when you
ranch
say
style.
just outside Manotick, it's actually just outside of Barrhaven.
Well, yeah, it's between Manotick and Barrhaven.
Yeah, really.
And so it's really nice in that it's got refinished oak hardwood floors. There's a deck above or outside of the kitchen. It's 3 bedrooms. There's 2 bathrooms in the property, new laminate flooring in the lower level, and it has water access, and it's located on the park that lets you, the pathway/parkway that runs right out into the country or right into town. So you can take your bike anywhere you want, and there's a path down to the water, so you can put your canoes in there. You can enjoy the river just down the street.
Wow.
Yeah.
For $300,000.
For $300,000.
That's a great deal.
It's an amazing opportunity.
The phone will be ringing off the hook, so if you want that phone number, it's 613-860-4663.
And now any other properties that you're interested in, we've got lots of awesome opportunities. We've got a gorgeous property that is in Manotick that is priced at just over $900,000. So if you're looking for an exclusive property, that is something you'll want to call on as well.
That has an oasis backyard with a gorgeous in-ground pool with canopy, very well landscaped, very private. You cannot see the pool area from any house. So very, very private.
And it's $950,000?
That's correct. It has an in-law, well, not an in-law, but a master suite on the main floor, which could be used by an in-law or by you as the master of the home.
Right.
Great house, beautiful house, stone front, luxury kitchen, great entertainment kind of home. Really, really nice.
And easy access into Manotick, easy access to the 416, just a stone's throw away. So, I mean, that's really cool as well. Conveniently located and in a really awesome subdivision.
Yeah, so if you'd like an exclusive viewing on that property, give us a call at 613-860-4663.
Thanks for joining us on the Inside Track, and we love it when you do, and we love being able to provide information and insight. And also we have workshops available every month, pretty much every Thursday. There is something you may want to come and listen to or participate in, or even have your friends come and join us. So Thursdays, they're held just off of Hunt Club, 2 different locations. Call us and we'll give you those details as well, or you can email us info@dekkerteam.com. And we want to say thanks for joining us on the Inside Track on Real Estate today.
Bye for now.